COPD patient on ventilator. Can my mom get intensive care at home instead of hospice? My name is Patrik Hutzel from intensivecareathome.com, where we provide tailor-made solutions for long-term ventilated adults and children with tracheostomies, home ventilation with BiPAP, CPAP without tracheostomy, tracheostomy care without ventilation, cough assist management, ventilation weaning at home, home TPN, home IV potassium, home IV magnesium infusion, central line, PICC line, Hickman's line, as well as port management at home. We also provide PEG, patch tube, nasogastric tube, nasogenostomy tube management at home, as well as IDC, SPC management at home, as well as palliative care. So today I have a question from Rachel, who writes in and he says, "Hi Patrik, my mother is diagnosed with COPD and required use of an oxygen machine at home. She had complained and began panicking from not being able to catch her breath 3 days ago, and she's now on the ventilator in ICU. She was admitted for extreme shortness of breath. Oxygen saturation was in the 50s. They sedated her and placed her on a ventilator. 3 days later, the ICU doctors expressed there are no other options and placed her on hospice, and they're doping her up with sedatives such as propofol and opiates such as morphine until she dies from organ failure. Is there really nothing else we can do? Can my mom go home with intensive care at home?" From Rachel. Now, Rachel, I'm very sorry to hear about your mom's situation. This must be incredibly distressing for you and your family, especially hearing that hospice is the only option being presented. But here's what you need to know. There are other options, and intensive care at home could absolutely be one of them for your mother. And your mother's situation with COPD exacerbation requiring mechanical ventilation is exactly the type of case we handle regularly at intensive care at home. And it makes a lot of sense to take patients home with COPD and ventilation. The hospital may be telling you there are no perceived options because they're thinking within the limitations of traditional hospital-based care. But mechanical home ventilation with or without a tracheostomy is a well-established evidence-based option that many hospital staff simply aren't aware of. Let me point you to our comprehensive guide about the mechanical home ventilation guidelines at intensivecareathome.com, and these evidence-based resources outlines exactly how patients like your mom can safely receive ventilator care at home with the right team and equipment. The reality is that intensive care at home is possible, and there's no need for your mom to be doped up and have propofol, sedatives, and morphine and go to hospice until her organs shut down. That could be actually perceived as euthanasia, and euthanasia is illegal. If the hospital staff don't know about intensivecareathome.com, please let them know that this is a genuine option for your mother. We have plenty of case study on our website showing successful outcomes, a proven model of care for ventilator-dependent patients. We employ hundreds of years of critical care nursing experience combined in the community, which is unmatched by other providers. We are the only service provider in 2025 in Australia that has achieved third-party accreditation for intensive care at home nursing. So we have the intellectual property, the staff, and the know-how how to provide intensive care at home. We also have experience with COPD patients requiring long-term ventilation. And of course, we have evidence-based protocols, policies for mechanical home ventilation. The fact that the ICU team has jumped straight away to hospice after just 3 days on a ventilator is extremely concerning. Most patients with COPD exacerbations need time to recover, and some do require longer-term ventilation support. But that doesn't mean end of life is the only path forward. And funding for intensive care at home might be your next question, but that shouldn't be of no concern. Here is why. With intensive care at home, we're cutting the cost of an ICU bed by 50% or more. Think about that. We're providing the same level of care your mother needs, which is 24-hour intensive care nursing at home, but at half the cost of keeping her in hospital and in ICU. Funding bodies, insurance companies, and healthcare systems naturally should and have a strong interest in this because it makes financial sense while improving quality of life, and the hospital can free up the ICU bed, which is what they're trying to do anyway by killing your mum. Whether it's private health insurance, whether it's the NDIS, whether it's any other funding body such as DVA or car insurances, etc., the cost savings alone make intensive care at home an attractive and cost-effective option, not even mentioning the quality of life improvements for you and your mom. We've worked with numerous funding bodies over the years who recognize the value proposition with intensive care at home. Also, what they're not telling you is that 70 to 90% of intensive care patients actually survive. So the odds are actually in your mom's favor. So you should be asking the question, why are they putting the odds against your mom if they're sedating her and giving her opiates? Because that'll make her stop breathing eventually. So what you need to do right now, Rachel, because time is critical here, before they proceed with hospice, you need to, number one, request a family meeting with the medical team immediately. Ask for a second opinion. You have every right to do this. Present intensive care at home as an option and share our website and get us on the family meeting or in the family meeting. And of course, contact us directly at intensivecareathome.com. Call us on one of the numbers on the top of our website so we can discuss your mother's case specifically. Don't let them tell you there are no options when they haven't explored all possibilities. Hospice may be appropriate for some situations, but after just 3 days on a ventilator with a known chronic condition like COPD, that deserves further investigation. And like I said, what they're not telling you is that 70 to 90% of intensive care patients survive intensive care. Also, your mum may need long-term ventilation with a tracheostomy, so life actually can be prolonged. Instead of telling you about hospice, they should be talking about the option of a tracheostomy. But again, they're withholding very important and life-saving information, right? And this is why I keep saying over and over again, ICU teams are not even telling you half of the story. And here is also why hospitals and ICUs default to hospice too quickly. Sometimes hospitals move towards hospice because they need the ICU bed for other patients. They don't have the resources for long-term ventilation. Staff genuinely aren't aware of intensive care at home and home ventilation options. They are focused on acute care, not chronic ventilation management. But these are hospital limitations, not realities, and it's simply not your mother's limitations, right? So what they should be doing is talking about a tracheostomy instead, right? Trying to wake her up. Maybe she can even be extubated, right? If they keep giving her sedation and opiates, such as propofol or morphine, her organs will shut down eventually. So they're deliberately withholding information. And like I always say, the biggest challenge for families in intensive care is simply that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know their rights. And they don't know how to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care. Another thing you should be doing, Rachel, is get access to all medical records, because we need to look at ventilator settings, her overall conditions, pathology and lab results, diagnostics such as MRI scans, CT scans, doctors' reports, nurses' reports, ventilation settings, arterial blood gases, and so forth, right? Because then we will find out pretty quickly that they're potentially deliberately fabricating the hoax of hospice instead of actually saving your mum's lives. Because don't accept there are no options as the final answer. Your mother deserves a thorough evaluation of all possibilities, including intensive care at home with mechanical ventilation, potentially with a tracheostomy, We've helped countless families in intensive care in similar situations, and we have the evidence, the case studies, the proven model of care to support it, to help your mom. Go to intensivecareathome.com right now, reach out to our team, and I can show you how we can help your mother get the care she needs in the comfort and dignity of your own home. Now, with intensive care at home, we are currently sending our ICU and critical care nurses into the home 24 hours a day. We are providing the following: home care services for ventilated adults and children with tracheostomies with critical care nurses 24 hours a day. A genuine alternative to a long-term stay in intensive care or long-term acute care, tracheostomy care for clients without ventilation, home care services for patients on non-invasive ventilation such as home BiPAP, home CPAP, home TPN, which is also known as IV nutrition, home IV potassium and home IV magnesium infusions, IV fluids and IV antibiotics. We are providing central line management, peak line management, Hickman's line management, as well as port management at home. We're providing nasogastric tube and PEG tube management at home, the use of cough assist machines for our clients for airway clearance at home, palliative care services at home, as well as ventilator weaning at home. We're also sending our critical care nurses into the home for emergency department bypass services. We have done so successfully as part of the Western Sydney Local Area Health District, their In Touch program, saving approximately $2,000 per patient that we keep at home instead of them going to an emergency department. That also means we're in a position to cut the cost of an intensive care bed by around 50%. An intensive care bed costs between $5,000 to $6,000 per bed day. Our service costs between $2,500 to $3,000 per bed day, and we're freeing up the most sought after bed in the hospital, which is the ICU bed. Most importantly, we're improving the quality of life for patients and their families, which is a win-win situation for all stakeholders. Of course, quality of life is much improved surrounded by families and by a team of dedicated intensive care nurses in the home care setting instead of in an intensive care unit. With intensive care at home, we are currently operating all around Australia in all major capital cities as well as in all regional and rural areas. We work with NDIS clients all around Australia, TAC and WorkSafe in Victoria, Department of Veteran Affairs all around Australia. Our clients and we as a service provider have also received funding through public hospitals, private health funds, as well as departments of health. We are having policies and procedures for intensive care at home nursing, and we've built all the intellectual property for intensive care at home since 2012. No other provider in Australia has created more intellectual property when it comes to intensive care at home nursing than we have. This puts us in a position to employ hundreds of years of critical care nursing experience combined in the community. No other service provider in 2025 employs a higher skill level in the community than we do, which enables us to look after the highest acuity adults and children in the community in Australia safely. So if you're at home already, and if you're watching this, or you're stuck in an ICU long-term, or if you're going to hospital and ED all the time, and you realize that you don't have the right level of support at home, or if you are stuck in an ICU, I'll give you a real-world example today how we can help you. One of our first clients when we first got started in 2012 was a client who was at home initially on a ventilator with a tracheostomy with a support worker model 24/7. Of course, support workers are not equipped to look after a client at home on a ventilator with a tracheostomy. That is dangerous and it's simply negligent. Having support workers looking after a client at home on a ventilator with a tracheostomy is like flying the airplane with a cabin crew instead of the pilot, because anyone on a ventilator with a tracheostomy is at very high risk of medical emergencies 24/7, or even at high risk of dying if they don't have a team of dedicated critical care nurses looking after them 24/7 at home. This is actually evidence-based and is documented in our mechanical home ventilation guidelines that you can find on our website at intensivecareathome.com. Think about it. In an intensive care unit in a hospital, you wouldn't have support workers looking after your critically ill loved one or after any critically ill patient on a ventilator with a tracheostomy. So why would anyone in their right mind do that in a home care environment in the community? So this client at the time found out about us eventually, and the ICU that he was basically living in also knew about us and eventually reached out to us. And we were proving our concept with this client very fast. When we worked with this particular client, we sent him critical care nurses 24 hours a day, and he never ever went back into ICU ever again, as long as we were working with this client. We can do the same for you if you're not safe at home and help you with keeping you at home predictably. Otherwise, we would not be in business. Again, the same is applicable for those stuck in an ICU, similar to this case study that I've just given you. Or if you're going back to ED all the time, please reach out to us. We can help you with taking you through the right steps, including how to get funding with different funding bodies. This is also why we are providing NDIS support coordination. We have a team of NDIS support coordinators, and they have a wealth of knowledge. I've done an interview with Amanda Richards, one of our NDIS support coordinators, and I'll put a link to an interview with Amanda in the written version of this blog. We're also providing TAC case management and WorkSafe case management in Victoria with Lucy McCodder. If you're an NDIS support coordinator or a case manager from another organization watching this and you're looking for nursing care for your participants, please reach out to us as well. If you need more evidence for nursing care, we are also writing NDIS nursing assessments with legal nurse, critical care consulting nurses. If you are a critical care nurse and you're looking for a career change and you want to join a very progressive, dynamic, and high-performing team of critical care nurses in the community, we're employing hundreds of years of critical care nursing experience combined. You can join this high-performing team if you are a critical care nurse. If you are looking for a career change as a critical care nurse, we're currently hiring for jobs for critical care nurses in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, in Albury, Wodonga, in Bendigo, in Geelong, in Warragul, in Victoria. If you have worked in critical care nursing for a minimum of 2 years, pediatric ICU, ED, and you have already completed a postgraduate critical care nursing qualification, we will be delighted hearing from you. I do have a disclaimer though, because we are offering a tailor-made solution for our clients, which includes regular staff. Our clients also do want the same staff coming over and over again because they are so vulnerable and so special. That's why we need regular staff. So if you're looking for agency work where you can come and go, this will not be the right fit for you. We are looking for consistency and our clients are looking for consistency. So please only apply with us if you can give us regular and consistent availabilities for shifts and you're really keen on building solid relationships with us and with our clients. If you're an intensive care specialist or an ED specialist, we also want to hear from you. We're currently expanding our medical team as well. We can also help you eliminate your bed blocks in your ICU and in your ED for your long-term patients, or for your regularly readmitting patients with our critical care nursing team at home. We're here to help you take the pressure off your ICU and ED beds, and in most cases, you won't even pay for it. Even if you do pay for it, it is so much more cost-effective than what you're paying for in ICU and ED, and you get the same level of care. And if you're a hospital executive watching this and you have bed blocks in your ICU, ED, and respiratory wards, or for home TPN, please reach out to us as well. We can help you eliminate your bed blocks very fast. If you're in the US and in the UK, and you're watching this and you need help, we want to hear from you as well. We can help you there privately with one-on-one consulting and with hiring nurses privately. Once again, our website is intensivecareathome.com. Call us on one of the numbers on the top of our website or simply send us an email to info@intensivecareathome.com. And if you like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel for regular updates for families with intensive care at home and intensive care. Click the like button, click the notification bell, share this video with your friends and families, and comment below what you want to see next or what questions and insights you have from this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is Patrik Hutzel from intensivecareathome.com, and I will talk to you in a few days. Take care for now.